self-control, it can be a real drag sometimes. I mean, wouldn't life be more fun if we could do whatever we wanted? As much fun as that sounds, it's a bad idea because we are all crazy. Left unchecked, our hearts and our minds run wild like animals stampeding with no thought of the damage that's being caused. God gives us self-control not to keep us from fun, but to lead us to it. Through the life of David, we take a look at one of the most destructive of emotions, and that is anger. Now, anger is the worst leader, but as much as David wanted anger to lead him, he wanted one thing more: to stay in God's plan. King Saul unknowingly puts himself in danger, and David is given the freedom to choose. Do I take matters into my own hands, or do I leave them in God's? His self-control gave him the ability to make the wise choice. This week's bottom line is, don't be controlled by your anger. Alright guys, now we're going to get into the small group activities. First, I want to say thank you for watching this video. This is an investment not only to your own peace and preparation, but also in the lives of the children you're going to be hanging with this Sunday. So thank you for your investment into their lives as well as into yours. And the second thing I want to say before we jump into the small group activities is something that I found through this lesson in 1 Samuel chapter 24. It's a story where David is hiding in the cave and Saul has to relieve himself, so he goes into a cave to go to the bathroom, and it just happens to be the cave that David and all of his mighty men are hiding in. And his men recognize something is about to happen. They are rejoicing, they're getting excited because this is the moment. The fleeing is ended. The evil King Saul's reign is over. As his men are excited about what God has done for them, they remind David of a word that he was given. And that word is in chapter 24, verse 4. The men said, "This is the day the Lord spoke of, when he said to you, I will give your enemy into your hands for you to deal with as you want." You see, David had some wants, and his anger would have fueled a few of those wants to get revenge, to take the throne by force. But David had a greater want, a long-term want, and that was to be in God's plan, to be in God's presence, for God to be walking with him. And all of us have dreams and desires and wants. And self-control helps filter out those smaller wants so we can focus on the bigger ones. And in this story, what David really wanted was to be in God's plan, to follow God's ways. And God gave him the option. He gave Saul to him to do with as he pleased, or to do with as he wanted. And in that moment, he allowed self-control to filter out what anger wanted, what selfishness wanted, what jealousy wanted, and it allowed him to focus on what he truly wanted. And that was to be in God's presence, to be in God's perfect plan. And so that's why he didn't kill Saul. Now let me ask you, what are your greatest wants? What do you want most in life? Self-control will help you get there. But let me ask you a more specific question as it pertains to this Sunday and every Sunday. When you show up on Sunday, what is it you want? What do you want to see happen in your life, through your life, in the lives of the kids you're leading? What do you want to see happen? Spend some time this week praying and asking God, help me understand what the greater wants are. For me, what I really want to happen is I want to be used by God. I want God to speak through me, and I want our kids, the kids that I'm talking to, I want them to hear God's voice. I want them to understand what God is saying to them. And that doesn't happen accidentally. It doesn't happen because I come up with something great to say. It happens because I want to be in God's will. And part of being in God's will is staying in God's word. Part of God's will is me praying for Sunday, and part of God's will is me preparing for Sunday. So what are you wanting? And what is it going to take to get what you want? Because God gave David the choice. He gave him, hey, do with it as you wish. Whatever you want to do, here it is. Now, obviously, there's a wise way to handle that. So pray. Spend some time praying for yourself and your kids and ask God, what do you want to see happen? and let that fuel what you want to see happen this week, and then let what you want to see happen fuel the next few steps of preparation, of prayer, and showing up on Sunday. The first activity is called Control It, and this is an application activity, and the binder references a game called Bop It. I'm not really sure what that is or how that connects, but I understand the concept of the activity, and it's really good because we're talking about anger, and anger is an emotion that drives us to action. It moves us, and especially in children. Children don't know what to do with the anger, so they just lash out. Anger is an explosion of emotions. And if you think about the nature of an explosion, there's the explosive force, and then it dies very quickly. That explosive force is there, but then it's gone. Now, there's some debris left over and some fires and stuff going, but the explosive force of an explosion only lasts a second. And the same can be said of anger. When our kids get angry, there's this flood of emotion, this drive to lash out and to scream or give back what was given to them and to lash out in that anger, that explosiveness of the anger. But if we can teach our kids what to do in the fiercest moment of anger, that initial couple seconds or 30 seconds, if we can teach them what to do in that moment, then we can greatly help them diffuse the consequences of lashing out in anger. And we want to remind our kids it's not wrong to be angry. It's okay to be angry. But what really matters is how we handle that anger. So what the activity is giving the kids some things that they can do when they get angry. Things that they can do instead of yelling or getting back at the person that made them angry, something different. And you're gonna walk them through this, and each one of them are gonna have an action that they will actually repeat. And so those actions are, when you get angry, you can pray. When you get angry, you can count to 10. And just do that. You can breathe. And in the binder, it gives you some actions to go along with these things. Hold your arms in a circle over your head like a giant balloon. You could hug a stuffed animal. You could walk it off, walk in place. Or you could just pause. Just be still. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna teach the kid these motions, and being the younger kids, I teach them one or two at a time and then have them repeat it back to you and then do a few more, because ultimately what you're gonna do is you're going to have them all stand up and stand in front of you, and you're gonna call out one of the things that they can do when they get angry, and they're gonna repeat it back to you. All the kids are gonna do the same motions, and basically it's helping them see what to do when they get angry. And the next time they get angry, they're gonna remember this. They're gonna remember one of these or maybe two of these, and it's one step closer for them to handling anger correctly. Even if they just thought about what you talked about, we've won. We've moved them closer to handling their anger and not getting caught up in being controlled by their anger. And so you'll wrap this activity up by talking about that there's many things in life that are gonna make us angry, but we just have to make the wise choice when we're angry. And the best thing to do is to use self-control. Self-control is choosing to do what we should do instead of what we want to do. And sometimes we just need to choose to hug a stuffed animal, or we just need to choose to count to 10. And if we can get them to do those techniques, then it will diffuse that explosive part of the anger and help them get to a place where they can make a wiser choice. The next activity is called Pause, and this is actually our memory verse activity, and you're gonna use a lot of the things that you used in the previous activity. In your box is gonna be activity pages, 4 of them. They look like this, and they will say hug up stuffed animal, breathe, count to 10, or walk away. And these are all things that they could do when they get angry. And how you're gonna set up the room is, you're gonna set up one of these pages, tape it to one of the 4 corners in the room. And then you're gonna have the kids mingle, walk around in the center of the room, and then you're going to call out a situation that might make them angry. And then they are to go to the corner, one of the activities that they think they would do when they got angry. And so what this activity is teaching them to do is to act out on that pausing. Instead of doing what they want to do, they're going to pause and they're going to pick one of the 4 things that we've talked about, how to handle the anger, how to diffuse that explosive part of the anger. And now, some of the kids may go to the same corner, and that's okay. The whole point is, what would you do if you got angry? And then it's application, showing them this is what you do. And this is going to come in handy the next time they get angry. They're going to remember, I need to pause. I need to hug something. I need to count to something. I need to walk away. They need to do something different than just what they want to do. And then wrap up the activity by opening up the Bible to 2 Peter chapter 1 verse 3 and read the scripture. And then have the kids repeat it back to you and just remind them that this verse is telling them that God has given us everything that we need. And part of that everything is the ability to pause and to control our anger. We don't want to be controlled by our anger. God doesn't want us to be controlled by our anger. So God gives us everything we need to not be controlled. So we can control what we do when we're angry. And what we're going to do is we're going to pause. And we're going to do something instead of what we want to do. We're going to pause and do something different until God shows us what we should do. One activity of Pray and Dismiss is simply praying for the kids and just reiterating by asking them, what are you going to do the next time you get angry? And encourage them to pantomime or act out one of the things that you've talked about today. Hug something, count to 10, walk away, take deep breaths, and have them act those out, each one based off what they think they would do. And then after they've done it, pray. Pray and ask God to help each one of them do what they know they should do. Because right now they know what they should do. We're showing them that we're asking God to help them in the moment of need. And so, which means the next time they get angry and they think about one of these things and they start to do it, it's evidence that God is in their life. And it's going to show them that there's something to this self-control. There's something tangible to God's presence in my life because I'm actually doing something different than what I feel like I want to do, lashing out. So just pray for the kids. Use their names. Help them. Pray that they would do breathing practices or the counting practices. Just be specific as you're praying for them. Because kids will always remember that you prayed for them.